Hello YouTube, the MTG Master here, going over Depela, Pilot Exemplar, Dwarf Vehicle Tribal Commander deck. She's casts for 1 red, 1 white, 1 colorless. You get a 3/3 Dwarf Pilot, giving other dwarves +1/+1 and other vehicle creatures you control +1/+1. When she becomes tapped, pay X. You may pay X. If you do, reveal the top X cards of your library. Put all dwarf and vehicles into hand. The rest on the bottom. The land base is 14 basic plains, 14 basic mountains, Evolving Wild, Temple of the False God, Inspiring Vantage, Unknown Shores, Stone Quarry, Loaming Spires, Shimmering Grotto, Windscarred Crag, Sandstone Bridge. The non-artifact creature / vehicle artifacts are Soul Ring, Sunforger gives a creature +4/+0, and unattached Sunforger get a red or white instant sorcery with with converted mana cost 4 or less, cast it without paying its casting cost. Fun card. Into the instant sorceries enchantments, Welding Sparks deal X damage, where X is 3 plus the number of artifacts you control to target creature. Fun card, especially with this being an artifact-based deck. Brave the Sands, creatures have vigilance. They can block an additional creature. Decommission to get rid of an artifact or enchantment. Nahiri's Machinations, probably saying that wrong, give something indestructible at the beginning of combat and can pay a red and a colorless to deal 1 damage to target blocking creature. Call for Unity, creatures get +1/+1 for each Unity counter on it. Revolt at the beginning of your end step. If a permanent you control left the battlefield this turn, put a Unity counter on it. Aerial Modification, enchant creature or vehicle. As long as enchanted permanent is a vehicle, it's a creature in addition to its other types. Gets +2/+2 in flying. So it basically cruises the vehicle forever. Consulate Crackdown. Just when it enters the battlefield, exile all artifacts your opponents control until it leaves the battlefield. Great card to board wipe your opponents of all their artifacts, especially if they're playing an artifact-based deck. Built to Smash, give a creature +3/+3 until end of turn. If it's an artifact, creature gains trample. Start your engines. Very great card for vehicles. They become artifact creatures until end of turn. They get +2/+0. Mob Rule. Choose 1. Gain control of all creatures, power 4 or greater. Untap them. They gain haste until end of turn. Or the other one is the same thing, but for creatures power 3 or less. Wrangle. Gain control of target creature with power 4 or less until end of turn. Untap that creature, gains haste. Servo Exhibition, give you more creatures to crew with. Precise Strike, first strike +1/+0. Ally Evasion, really good card. Either give it something +1/+2, or return a creature to you control to an owner's hand. So if you get a giant creature that they spent like the whole game trying to cast, and you just took control of it, with Mob Rule, bounce it back. Built to Last, target creature gets +2/+0 until end of turn. If it's artifact, it gains indestructible till end of turn. And my favorite card in the deck, probably for instants and sorceries, Gamble. Search your library for, it's a red tutor, but it searches for anything, put it into hand, but you have to discard a card at random, shuffle your library. Onto the creatures. For creatures, we have 9th Bridge Patrol. Whenever a creature leaves play, or leaves the battlefield, put a 1/1 counter on Ninth Bridge Patrol. Ogre Battle Driver. Whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your control, that creature gets +2/+0 and haste until end of turn. Pretty good card. Veteran Motorist. Scry enters the battlefield. Scry 2. Whenever it crews a vehicle, the vehicle gets +1/+0. Gear Shift Warrior. Ace. My bad. First Strike. Whenever it crews a vehicle, that vehicle gains First Strike. Brazen Scourge. Good card. 3/3 haste. If you don't have the white, you cast, and you have this in hand, cast this instead of Depela. Swing 3. Good for crewing vehicles also. Aether Inspector, get 2 energy attacks, pay 2 energy, make a 1/1 servo. Decent card. Workshop Assistant. When it dies, return another artifact from your graveyard to hand. Aerial Responder, give something flying, Vigilance, Lifelink. Or no, it has flying, Vigilance, Lifelink. Renegade Wheelsmith, when it becomes tapped, target creature can't block. Good because you're going to be tapping it to crew. Hamora, Human Ascendant, can't block. When it's put into a graveyard, return it flipped. Its flip form is Hamara's Essence. Creatures you control get +2/+2 and have flying. And they get Fire Breathing, or pay 1 red, give it +1/+0 until end of turn. Really fun card for the deck. Restoration Specialist, sack it, return up to 1 artifact card from your graveyard, and up to 1 target enchantment from your graveyard to hand. Glint Sleeve Artisan, either a 3/3 or a 2/2, and you make a servo with Fabricate. We'll save that to the end. Toolcraft Exemplar, at the beginning of combat, if you control an artifact, it gets +2/+1 until end of turn. 3 or more artifacts, it also gains First Strike. Good for crew. Aeronaut Admiral, flying creature, or flying vehicles you control have flying. Not a dwarf, unfortunately, but great to give your creatures flying. Visionary Augmenter, Fabricate 2. Can give it 2 1/1 counters or make 2 1/1 servos. Jorkadine, great card in the deck because it's artifact based. It gives creatures you control +3/+0 as long as you control 3 or more artifacts. He also has First Strike. Spireside Infiltrator, when it becomes tapped, deal 1 damage to each opponent. Good because you can crew a lot of stuff with that. Solemn Recruit, double strike at the beginning of your end step if a permanent left the battlefield this turn. Put a 1/1 counter on it. Bassandra, Battle Seraph, flying. Players can't cast spells during combat, which is nice, and target creature attacks. So if you want to make your opponents swing with their best creature, that's a way to do it. Adriana, Captain of the Guard, melee. Other creatures you control have melee. So this is a Conspiracy 2 card. Whenever this creature attacks, it gets +1/+1 until end of turn for each opponent you attacked with a creature this combat. So in a 4-player game, if you swing 1 creature at each opponent, all creatures get +2/+2. More than that gives more counters. Speedway Fanatic, haste. When it crews a vehicle gets haste. Reckless Fireweaver, whenever artifact enters the battlefield, it deals 1 damage to each opponent. Foundry Inspector, artifacts cost 1 less. Countless Gears Renegade, Revolt, at the beginning, when it enters the battlefield, if a permanent you control left the battlefield this turn, create a 1/1 colorless servo artifact creature token. The next 2 are the Gearhulks. So Cataclysmic, kind of a downside for this deck, but if you really need a board wipe, this is a good way to start it, or to do it. destroy. Each player chooses an artifact, creature, enchantment, and a planeswalker from the non-land permanents he or she controls. Sacrifice the rest. And then Combustible Gear Hulk. Basically, your target opponent may have you draw 3 cards. If they don't, put the top 3 cards into your library into the graveyard. Then it deals that much damage equal to the CMC to that player. Now on to the main part of the deck, the vehicles. Oval Chase Dragster, 6/1, Crew 1, Trample Haste, pretty good card. Renegade Freighter, when it attacks it gets +1/+1 and Trample until end of turn. 4/3 with Crew 2. By the way, Crew is tap any number of creatures you control with total power 2 or more. This vehicle becomes an artifact creature until end of turn. So we're gonna continue on. Bromat Bizarre Barge, 5/5. When it enters, draw a card. Crew 3. Fleet Wheel Cruiser, when it enters, a 5/3 Trample Haste. When it enters, it's an artifact creature until end of turn. Crew 2. Sky Skiff, flying 1/1, Crew 1, or 2/3, Crew 1. Untethered Express, trample whenever it attacks, put a 1/1 counter on it. Crew 1. Demolition Stomper, 10/7 for Crew 5. Demolition Stomper can't be blocked by creatures with power 2 or less. Hold on. Armada Express, Menace, so can't be blocked except by 2 or more creatures. Crew 4 for an 8/6. Iron Tread Crusher, 6/6, Crew 3. Mobile Garrison. Whenever it attacks, untap another target artifact creature you control. 3/4, Crew 2. Cultivator's Caravan, tap to add a mana of any color. Crew 3 for a 5/5. Consulate Dreadnought, 7/11 for 1 mana, but it has Crew 6, unfortunately. So if you get that turn 1, that's really fun, but you have to wait a while to start crewing. Daredevil Dragster, at the end of combat, if it attacked or blocked this combat, put a velocity counter on it. If it has 2 or more, sacrifice it and draw 2 cards. Crew 2 for a 4/4. Ballista Charger, whenever it attacks, deal 1 damage to target creature or player. 6/6, Crew 3. Smuggler's Copter, this got banned within the past month from standard, so it dropped and it went back to $5. Whenever it attacks or blocks, draw a card. If you do, discard a card. It's a 3/3 flyer with Crew 1. Now there's 2 cards left, so I'll show you this one first. Sky Sovereign Council Flagship. Whenever it enters the battlefield or attacks, deal 3 damage to target creature or planeswalker an opponent controls. So automatically when this thing enters, you can bring a planeswalker down 3 loyalty. Whenever it attacks, you can do the same thing, or you can kill a creature, which is nice. It's a 6/5 flyer, Crew 3. And the main card of the deck, Peace Walker Colossus. This card, crazy strong vehicle. So it's a 6/6 for 3 with Crew 4, but its ability, which is absolutely broken, is pay 1 and a white. Another target vehicle you control becomes an artifact creature until end of turn. So for 2 mana, you can make any vehicle besides this into a creature. So turn 3, you get that out, or earlier, like maybe turn 1, you get the 7/11 Consulate Dreadnought and a Soul Ring into that. Turn 2, Peace Walker. Turn 3, you swing for 11 or 7, and then it starts going out of control when you get this down, because this thing crews vehicles for 2 mana instead of your creatures. So that's my Depela Pilot Exemplar deck. Real fun deck. It's about a $50 deck as of TCG. So yeah, if you want to build it, super fun, easy to play. I recommend it. All the cards should still be pretty cheap except for 3 of them. So yeah, thanks for watching.